Hey, what's up, guys? So I want to talk about Dark Knight. I got all the tanks to level 100. I've been messing around with them a lot in the EX trials. Dark Knight saw a lot of good changes. Shadowed Vigil got upgraded. It used to be Shadow Wall, now Shadow Vigil. You get an XCOG, basically, which is once you fall below 50% or the duration expires, and it heals you for 1200 potency, which can crit, which is nice. Another really big change is you can now pre-pull your shadow, which is awesome. They removed the potency on gap closers on plunge, which is really good. I'm very glad they did that. And they also merged blood weapon and delirium into one GCD. So they made it less busy, which is good. And originally I thought that was like super awesome, but I've been playing it like a lot. And I feel like that removing that stuff, while it was really good, I feel like that it was kind of pointless to have Blood Weapon and Delirium. I also thought it was stupid that you couldn't pre-pull your Shadow, and the damage on gap closers has always kind of, I don't know if I want to say the word bothered, but I never really understood why you would spam a utility ability. But with the removal of all of that, it's really good, but they didn't actually give anything to replace it. So it feels kind of hollow almost. Basically, Dark Knight's whole thing was the fact that it had so many off GCDs. And now that they have removed all of the, well, not all of them, but a lot of off GCDs, I feel like they needed to replace it with something else. Maybe like an extra combo, like a combo finisher, or just something. Like, I mean, there's a lot of ideas that people could suggest. Like, you know, you guys have suggested, I've suggested them, but they didn't do that. So while the changes are good, I feel that Dark Knight, it's left a little hollowed out, for lack of a better way to explain it. But basically the job didn't really change at all. TBN is still the same. Living Dead is still the same. It just got less spammy, which, like I said, is good, but it's a little bittersweet. Anyway, these are the openers that I've been doing. These are 7.0 basic tank openers and rotations, not yet finished and subject to change. Openers may be slightly different depending on each fight and comp. If you're not pulling, remove the ranged attack. So there may be some little errors here and there, like there may be an off GCD that should be somewhere but is instead like maybe one GCD back. So I'll try to correct those as I go, but I'm pretty sure I got everything. So this is the standard opener that I've kind of been using. I mean, there's not much to it, man. And you can't really mess this up. As long as you're hitting your buttons, you can't really mess this up. I say that, but you know, I'll demonstrate this in a second and I'll probably mess this up. You can pre-pull your shadow even more. So you can actually put the shadow here. Right now I have the shadow here because raid buffs happen somewhere around here. If you're not pulling with unmend, then I do pre-pull it. The only reason why I'm not pre-pulling it is because I'm casting an unmend. So like I said, if you're not pulling the boss, then you don't need unmend. You can take this out. I messed around with different pot timings, and honestly, I can't figure out a better spot than to just put it here. Like I mentioned in my other videos, I prioritize activation casts before buffs. So basically what I mean is if you can activate something twice versus getting it under raid buffs once, that's how I play. So the first thing that I do whenever I approach a fight or anything like that is I check to see like how many activations can I get, and then I'll adjust those activation timings depending on like raid buffs. So like for example, like let's say I can get an extra living shadow in, or more common, an extra delirium window in before like downtime, but that will desync my stuff. Then I'm going to do that because it's going to be higher damage. You can still get some GCDs in. So like for delirium, for example, you can actually pop delirium and then not use the combo until like 2 or 3 GCDs later. So basically using this stuff early and then holding them for raid buffs, that's typically what I will do, but I prioritize the activations first. This is just a normal standard opener, so we'll try this standard opener. I'm not going to use a pot, I'm just going to use like Dark Missionary or something because I'm cheap, but pull the mend. Honestly, man, the order of your off GCDs like rarely matters. Dark Knight's pretty easy, man. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's literally the opener. You just make sure to get in 5 edges or whatever, you know. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. It's also important to know that the shadow doesn't actually start attacking until like 6 or 7 seconds after it's summoned. So for the first like 6-7 seconds, it's not even doing anything. So if you summon it immediately, like let's say you summon it at the same time raid buffs go out, where you're gonna miss the tail end of raid buffs. I mean, you can depending on like how early they pop the raid buffs, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like you want to use your shadow like a GCD or 2 early, so that way it has like the wind up time. If you use it exactly when raid buffs come out, because raid buffs last 20 seconds, you may may only miss one, maybe, but you know, ideally you want to do it a GCD or two early anyway. I don't like TBN in my opener because it just doesn't pop, man. Like if you know that it's going to pop, then yeah, it's fine to do it, but there's no reason to do it unless you know it's going to pop. With the merge of Blood Weapon to Delirium, it's kind of like not as important anymore from what I can tell. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I haven't found a reason why. So I typically don't use it. Now, granted, right now we're only doing EX trials, and this, you know, this is kind of like baby content. So nothing in the content really hurts, but you know, once we move into, you know, Savage, I'm sure TBN will increase its value a lot, as well as like Ultimate and stuff like that. But for right now, some bosses don't even auto attack for the first like 5 or 6 seconds anyway. So that's why I'm not going to put it in my opener. But like I said earlier, you can adjust stuff. You know, you can adjust like little things here and there, put TBN in, maybe use a TBN later. I know in T, I put one in later, I replace like an edge for it. So like, you know, little stuff like that you can do. But yeah, man, this is pretty much like the standard opener that I've been using. There is a, this is a cursed as this will come into play on fights like P8, second phase, P4, like first phase. Basically, whenever there is a very, very awkward phase push or downtime timing, and you can get in an extra delirium, like you can get in an extra minute, then you should definitely like do that there. Honestly, these two as well should be like up here, but like I said, it's really just gonna depend on the fight, man. You're gonna shift your off GCDs, you know, so that you can get in extra activations and stuff. You're not gonna typically use this. The only reason why I put it on here is because it does come up, like, you know, very rarely that you will need to do this to optimize your damage, so I figured I'd put it on here. So I don't want people to look at this and be like, oh, you have to use this for every fight, because that's not true. That's not true for any opener. But yeah, I mean, like, there's not really that much to talk about Dark Knight, honestly. Like I said earlier, they removed a bunch of stuff and they didn't really replace it with anything. You know, they removed the plunge potency, which is really good, but they didn't replace it with anything. And they merged Blood Weapon and Delirium, but they didn't replace the Blood Weapon. The no cost on the Shadow is great because you can pre-pull it. Pretty much Dark Knight is literally the easiest job I've ever played in any game. I mean, it really is, man. I don't know what else to say. Like, to play this job is insanely easy, you know? You just don't overcap. You know, use all your stuff, you know? And that's pretty much it. You know, you don't want to overcap on mana, don't want to overcap on blood gauge. Make sure you use your Disesteem before it falls off, you know, that type of stuff. And, you know, you just 1, 2, 3. You 1, 2, 3 Blood Spiller. That's it. It's got one combo, and it's, you know, you go to Pound Town on that one combo. So literally it, man. Just 1, 2, 3 Blood Spiller. Make sure nothing overcaps, you know. I mean, it still sucks in dungeons, don't get me wrong. We had a dungeon incident a couple weeks, or like a week ago. But overall, man, it's just, it is what it is. They took away some stuff, but didn't really replace it with anything interesting. I still can't believe Dark Missionary is, what, level 72 ability or 76 ability? Jesus, they don't even know about that, apparently. I will speak on Shadow Stride for a little bit. So this might just be, I don't know, maybe this is just me making stuff up in my own head, but I feel like that the animation, there is like half a second wind up on this animation, whereas Plunge did not have it, so that kind of sucks. The same thing for Gunbreaker. I feel like it's a little worse on Gunbreaker. But yeah, overall it's pretty easy, man, for any new Dark Knight players. This job's been pretty much the same since last expansion, and even like Shadowbringers has been very similar. Pretty much just 1, 2, 3 Blood Spiller. Just hit your off GCDs, don't overcap on mana, don't overcap on blood, and that's it. I mean, the job pretty much plays itself, man. There's really not much else I can speak on until they start adding new abilities. But anyway, man, thanks a lot for watching, guys. And, yo, I'll see you later. Peace.